Why was Deputy Minister Manana not arrested after the woman bashing incident? And to you men out there, how are you contributing towards the fight against women and children abuse? And what is the conviction rate on cases of gender-based violence in the Gauteng province? And how can communities ensure that Police Minister Fikile Mbalula's 6-point plan to combat gender violence works? What time is it? It is question time. Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Simpiwe Ngongwana, standing in for Mpotsedu. As the Women's Month of August draws to a close, many people have reacted with shock to a number of abuse cases involving public figures. Now, Deputy Minister of Higher Education Manana made the headlines last week after a video showing him assaulting a woman outside a Johannesburg pub surfaced on social media. Manana appeared in court and was granted bail by the Randburg Magistrates Court on Thursday. He faces 2 counts of assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. On Friday, retired footballer Marks Maponyane was sentenced to 6 months in prison or a fine of 3,000 rand after pleading guilty to the assault of his wife. Meanwhile, Shaka Sisulu, the grandson of the late struggle icon Walter Sisulu, has been charged with assaulting the mother of his son. Now, this incident comes in the wake of a video showing a male learner at a school in KwaZulu-Natal assaulting a female learner. Now, the incident occurred late last year. But what will it take to put an end to violence against women and children? We are live, therefore you can call us and air your views on the following numbers on your screens: 089 110 4210, international number +27 89 110 4210, or tweet us your comments. Our Twitter handle is @questiontime24. All right, my guests this afternoon are Advocate Phumeza Futsane, the Chief Prosecutor of the National Prosecuting Authority, and Mabato Molokome, an attorney at the Tshwaranang Legal Advocacy Center. Ladies, a very good morning, a very good afternoon to you. I beg your pardon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so what would it take to stop gender-based violence?
On my side, what I can say is that it can be a joint venture. It's not only one stakeholder or maybe government institutions only that could fight this. The communities themselves, they need to come on board, helping the police, helping the courts. All of us, we embark on one journey of fighting this monster that is attacking all of us.
Okay. And why was the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Manana, not arrested after the woman bashing incident?
I would say that that often happens to be the discretion of the police or the NPA in how matters would be dealt with. In this case, what happened is that they used a subpoena to have him appear before the magistrate court. An arrest, or rather the purpose of an arrest is to ensure that someone does actually appear before a legal authority. So it might have been that in this instance, they decided to go with a subpoena instead of actually effecting an arrest.
But then, having said that, do you think he's being treated with kid gloves? Is he receiving special treatment?
Special treatment, I wouldn't say so, in a sense that a subpoena is a legal method of ensuring that someone does appear before a legal authority. Our interest as an organization would be around how the matter actually proceeds and how the law is actually applied to him, regardless of the influence or the stature that he has.
Yeah, and speaking of public figures, we also saw an incident of the Zimbabwean First Lady Grace Mugabe assaulting another lady at a Sandton hotel. Do you think what sort of punishment would be for the First Lady?
You see, to be frank with you, it would be unfair for me to decide that case without really seeing what the docket itself and reading what is in that docket, so that I'll come with a proper answer to whatever that you're asking. But the only thing I can say is that it is just an unfortunate situation, which is something that we don't like to see as a community, that prominent figures are committing such atrocities, and it is not a good example at all.
All right, we've got a first caller of the day. We've got Felix from Nelspruit. Very good afternoon to you, Felix.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Oh yes, I just wanted to say that for us to overcome this how will I describe this pandemic that we are facing today, we need to stop categorizing violence. We need to know that what we are dealing with is violence. Once we can know exactly why a human being is violent to another human being, then it's easy for us to be able to deal with violence. For example, Grace Mugabe, the wife of Robert Mugabe, assaulted a woman. Will you call that gender-based violence? Because she's also a woman. The problem is there's violence in the community. We need to sit down and find out why is a human being violent to another human being. And once we can do that, then we'll be able to sort out the issue of violence in our community.
All right, Felix, thank you so much for your time. All right, how would you respond to that?
I think the misconception is always that where there's a woman involved beating another woman, it would not be just gender-based violence. So violence against women and children has previously been described as a power dynamic issue. However, in such instances where there is a woman beating another woman, it might have been because of power dynamics in that instance. So it does not take away from the issue being that of gender-based violence just because the perpetrator is a woman.
So the punishment won't change, eh?
No.
In that instance?
So that, depending on what she is charged with.
Okay.
So if she is charged with assault, the law would then follow as would in any other case.
Right, right. Now, tackling violence against women needs support, not just outrage. So how then do we ensure that, the outrage translates into interventions to stop the scourge?
You know, all the institutions, as I've said earlier on, they have to come on board. As for us on the NPA side, we are having programs that we are looking at and that we are using to try by all means that we are fighting these gender-based violences. So we are having dedicated prosecutors who are dealing with these type of offenses to make a point that any case that comes before us and we are having a clear-cut case on them, we deal with it and the community outside there to see that we're doing something about them.
Right, right. All right, we've got another caller on the line, Thabo from Sasolburg. Very good afternoon, Thabo.
Yes, afternoon. Mine is, yes, I'm respecting the Women's Month, but now what about the wife of the president who assaulted such a beautiful lady? What about her?
Come again, Thabo?
I'm saying the wife of the president of Zimbabwe,
yeah,
assaulted a beautiful lady.
Yes.
Yes. Such a beautiful lady, but now we don't talk about her. And she was supposed to hand herself over to the police station.
All right, so what is your question, really?
No, it is my question. You're talking about the Women's Month.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, yeah, that incident needs to be condemned in the strictest of terms. It doesn't really matter who is the perpetrator of the violence, but it needs to be condemned in the strictest of terms. Not just on Women's Month, but on any other day.
Yes, she's a mother. That child, she's 20 years old.
Yeah, all right, Thabo, thank you so much for your call. All right, I will respond to that.
No, the only answer I can give to that one, we must not be detracted or be derailed from our main focus of gender-based violence fight by only one incident of maybe the president's wife who has come to South Africa and assaulted somebody. So our main focus right now is that women are under siege. Women are being abused, violated by their own spouses, their own children, and old women, about their own grandsons. So we must not be moved and be taken away from the point in question that we are faced with a serious thing of men abusing women. That is the only thing that I would say about it. The fact that he has done and she has committed this kind of offense, that one can be decided when all of us will get to know what has made her to have that anger inside her to decide to do such a thing, whereas he knew her status and her position as the state president's wife.
Just what is the conviction rate of gender-based violence cases in Gauteng province?
In the Gauteng province, as I also said to my colleagues when they called me in their office, right now I'm proud to say that we are having a high conviction rate on these matters. And now they're being taken seriously. As I've said, that we have got even dedicated prosecutors who are dealing with this. All of us who are up in arms just because we see that we are really under siege. And this thing is coming day by day. Even though people are working, it is also growing each and every day. But conviction rate is very high.
All right, great to hear that. Now we've got Andrew from Polokwane. Very good afternoon to you, Andrew.
Yes, how are you?
Fine, how are you? What's on your mind?
Good.
Yeah, go on. What's on your mind?
Yes, my problem with South Africa is they are not taking this violence very seriously. Our laws seem to be very lenient. Irrespective of who is violence against you, whether child, a man, a woman. But what is important is there must be a very serious law that deals with perpetrators. In that case, it will be helping us as South Africans. Because people are just doing it, knowing that there's nothing that is going to happen against them. If you can look at the very same incident of the Zimbabwean First Lady and the Manana issues, they're just doing that because they know there's nothing that serious will be coming on their way.
All right, Andrew from Polokwane, thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate it. Now, the government supports quite a number of interventions, but its leaders have been very quiet. And we have our very own Minister Batabile Dlamini, the Social Development Minister, seemingly defending the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Tutuzi Manana, essentially insinuating that we should all leave Manana alone because there are some senior people within the government who have done worse.
I would say that you cannot, one wrong does not make others any better. In such, her statements are careless and dangerous in that they perpetuate violence and they come across as though they are normalizing violence. So we have to now look at the degree in which someone is a perpetrator to then classify them with other people who have done similar or worse. So that takes away from the fight against violence against women, because if we start pinpointing, we are not dealing with the actual issues. So I would categorize anybody who's an abuser within the same context so that we can deal with the main deep-rooted issues.
So what sort of outreach programs have you been engaging in, to tackle some of the issues and including, approaching the senior government officials like Minister Batabile Dlamini head on?
So Tshwaranang as an organization, we have a legal clinic. So I am the attorney that's running the legal clinic and we deal with women on a daily basis. So in terms of assisting them in reporting cases, monitoring cases and ensuring that the cases are actually seen through. In relation to our outreach with government, we have had various conversations where women from different aspects of life would then be called in one room. And my colleague was actually at one of the events where we invited the ministers. So we had the Ministry of Women and Children, as well as representatives from different organizations, in trying to find out what actually can we do in fighting the scourge that is facing South African women.
Right. We've also got Andrew from Gauteng on the line. A very good afternoon to you, Andrew.
Good afternoon. How are you?
We're great. How are you? What's in your mind?
I would like to say, why is the law here in South Africa is not equal? If you look at it, this Zimbabwean lady, maybe what from Mugabe, she did cause the GBH, but she is not arrested. But the laws here, it goes to say, if you hit someone or beat someone and cause a GBH, you get arrested, and the magistrate gets a report from the doctors to determine whether you go to jail or you pay what's called a bail or whatever. But it's not like that.
Yeah.
And this lady is enjoying everything with the bodyguards and so forth. While this lady was beaten, is suffering. Maybe she's in hospital at the moment. Why is the laws here in South Africa are not equal? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for your call, Andrew. I guess it goes back to the issue of the selective application of the law when it comes to gender-based violence. What's your comment on that?
Yes, what I can say is that everyone is equal before the law.
Yeah.
And the criminal justice system of this country has tried to maintain that in all material respect. And I've said earlier on, each and every case is being decided or tackled according to its own merits. The community outside there, they have to know that there are so many ways of how to bring an accused person before our courts. As my colleague has said earlier on, it could be by means of what? Summons. The person has been brought to summons after the statements and everything inside the docket has been read. Sometimes immediately at the scene of crime, if the police get there and this particular offense is happening at that time, the police can immediately arrest the suspect. In these two cases that I've heard the callers talking about, on both of them, I don't see or I've not heard that there were police who were there immediately when these offenses were taking place. Now it is depending upon the police, finalize the investigations. After you finalize the investigations, arrest. That has been a standard rule that we have told what the police. Finalize the investigations and arrest, so that we won't have cases that are bouncing in our courts.
Let's talk a bit more about the Criminal Procedures Act. Now, Section 18 of this particular act states that offences could not be prosecuted 20 years after the crime had been committed. Now, this certainly excludes the survivors of other crimes other than rape, and there's some sort of loopholes in that particular piece of legislation.
No, I think we've got a new case about that one. There is a certain accused person, an elderly man, who was maybe taken from Australia, and he came to South Africa, and he was prosecuted successfully of a rape of kids when they were still small. So with that section, I think there are certain authorities that are also counteracting it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, we've got Errol from East London. A very good afternoon to you, Errol.
Hello there.
Great, how are you? What's on your mind?
Man, these police officers over here that are trying to do the job properly over here, they should be learned and taught how to do the things properly, because the violence on women and children in South Africa is getting out of hand over here. And if they do that over there, the men who are doing this to the woman, they should be shambaked.
Well, indeed, thank you so much for your call, Errol. That is Errol from East London. How would you respond to Errol's query?
I would not agree with the perpetuation of further violence again. Right. So in South Africa, we have a constitution where in as much as someone is an accused, they still maintain their constitutional rights. The law does set out ways in which perpetrators should be dealt with, and all we can hope for is that proper implementation actually happens.
But then do you think the punishment for all gender-based violence should be categorized on the same scale? Because violence is just violence.
So depending on...
No matter the gravity of the offense.
So depending on what the person is charged with. So you would classify something as gender-based violence by virtue of the people that are involved in the matter. However, it could be that a person was raped, or it could be that a person was murdered, or the person was raped and murdered. So both those charges carry their own weight in terms of how the person will be sentenced and how the person will be dealt with by the court.
Let's talk specifically on assault. Take, for instance, Manana was slapped with a bail of 5,000 rand, and Marks Maponyane was slapped with a bail of 3,000 rand. But they did commit the same offences. So
the discretion is left to the courts to decide as to how the sentencing happens. So we do have crimes that have a minimum sentencing on them. So in as much as there is discretion on the court side, they cannot deviate from what the statute would say in relation to a specific crime. However, in deciding on sentencing, it has to be appropriate to the crime that is committed. There are also aggravating circumstances mitigating circumstances to each and every case. So it might have been that both those were looked at in relation to their matters.
Right.
And at the same time, we're also talking about bail and the final sentencing. So bail would be a different argument as opposed to Marks Maponyane, where there has actually been a sentencing, and that was the actual conviction at the end of the matter.
And do you think the discretion of the courts is fair in the meting out of punishment?
Definitely, they're fair. There's so many factors that have to be considered before each and every magistrate comes to a certain decision. But as for now, since we have not even challenged certain or some of them, it means that us as NPA were okay with them, were feeling that their discretion is still fine. And it is within the ambits of the law. Just because that is what matters.
Right, right. All right, we've got a professor from Tabazimbi. A very good afternoon to you, Professor.
Afternoon, how are you?
We're great, how are you? What's on your mind?
I'm great. Dumelambo Malegai. I would like to disagree with the advocate there that, you know, there has been successful prosecutions, and then, you know, I still believe that South Africa, and when coming to the abuse of women and children, it all depends, and then it all depends on the pockets of how much money you have. And then if the minister says if the police were there, why am I as an ordinary person when I can assault a woman? And then she goes to report the case to the police station. The police, it's not an issue of the police being around. The crime has been committed. Grace Mugabe, has assaulted a woman because of his position that is the first lady of Zimbabwe. The police are even afraid to apprehend her. You look at the Minister of Police. He made a statement earlier that when he can find a man assaulting a woman, that person will be arrested immediately. And I'm also very much disturbed by the issue of Sapuna, and why is this Sapuna reserved for some certain high-profile people? Why am I not as an ordinary South African? Also, why am I not entitled to that Sapuna? Because of most of the high-profile people, you will find that this thing of handing yourself over, we are giving yourself, but if it's an ordinary person, the police will act immediately and come and arrest me. You remember the story of Blanche years back. So, even if it's not related to women and child abuse, but because it was a high-profile person, he was given a date and said, come and help yourself.
Well, Professor, I think we've already got the gist of your issue. Thank you so much for your call. The advocate will certainly respond to that. Advocate?
Yes, I think the community outside there have to be realistic. Realistic in what sense? Most cases that are normally having a media coverage are the cases of the prominent figures. Now we don't have cases on our hand whereby we say that these ordinary citizens, this is how they are being treated, and the prominent figures, this is how they are treated. So now we cannot compare anything. We are just generalizing that now since Mduduzi Manana has been treated in this way, we feel as if the other people are being treated. Since the president's wife has been treated this way, just because those are the cases that the media itself are focusing on them. That's why now as NPA, I think that the criminal justice system at large was saying that we will be very glad if all cases can get the attention that all other cases. It must be equal. When you are covering all cases, cover those ones of the people on the ground and also cover those ones of the prominent figures. So that really we have real statistics, then we talk on top of something.
Right, right. Yes. Well, ladies, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and for you at home for watching. Till next time then, goodbye from Johannesburg.